In this video, I will share 5 skills that have helped me become a more creative worship guitarist. Let's get right to it. Skill number 1, connecting chord shapes. When we first learned the guitar, we're playing these open chords, A and E, D, and we're starting to connect them. In those little ways, we need to continue that process up the fretboard. Finding these other chord shapes, A, E, D, back to A. A, E, D, little ways to connect the chord shapes with just 1 or 2 notes really makes a big difference and just gives you confidence as you're playing a chord progression in a key, because these notes are right there at your fingertips, knowing these shapes. So for the A, I'm looking at the simple open shape, A and A. E, D major, those little connections make the difference. Skill number 2, so important, good muting technique. With the right and the left hand, both of them need to be active, continually muting the strings. This is one thing that early on I made a mess of what I was playing because I didn't mute unwanted strings. It adds a percussive kind of feel. You can do chunky rhythm and lead lines by just muting right here. Choking this out, resting the palm of your hand slightly on the bridge here. I just really rest on here. Resting your palm can really create a great effect, but gives you control over the strings. At high volumes with a lot of effect, you have to have control over these strings. But also, with your left hand, continually muting. Right there, I'm using some octaves. I'm strumming all of these strings, but I'm only pressing down on the ones I want to be heard, in this case on the A and G strings. I'll turn this delay off real quick so you can really see what I'm doing. But I'm using my first finger on the left hand here, just slightly muting this E string. The rest of them, I'm laying my first finger is actively muting all of the rest of the strings there. And then I'm pressing out with my third finger on this G string here. So you have that percussive sound. A lot of times I'd like to use my baby finger here, but it's still the same thing. Even with single notes or rhythm, have my left hand kind of, if I don't want that E ringing, I just wrap my thumb slightly over the top so it's deadened. The first finger for me is key a lot of times because I'm laying it at a small angle, and it's just, I'm only like right here targeting the A, D, and G strings for this A chord. The other three strings are being muted by my first finger, these high strings, and the low string with my thumb. A lot of times, I just naturally, this will come second nature if you're, just be aware of it. If you have strings that are ringing that make your playing sound like a mess, work on that. It can really be the difference from a beginner to intermediate and even into advanced sounding. Just simple chords, you sound like you know what you're doing because you have control over the strings. Skill number 3, a good bending technique. So important. I use this technique not all the time like rock players do. I'm using it as an effect to get from shape to shape. Little half bends there, like just a 1 fret bend. So, you know, I'm on the C sharp note here in the 6th fret of the G string, but I'm bending up to that D note there. Instead of hitting, this sounds good. And then the same with this G sharp note for the E chord. And you just slightly bend to the A note. On the high strings, I use it all the time also. That little half bend there really does, just sounds fantastic. And whole step bends sound great also. Then the whole, and those little bends can be, you can actually, while it's bent, slide up a half step and back down, like this. So you're bending to this D note from the 14th fret of the B string, just a half bend. And while it's bent, you slide up and back down. And then back to your target note there, this B note. It's a quick little flurry. Then a full bend here I was doing. 11th fret of the G string, a full bend, so you're trying to reach this G sharp note from the F sharp note. That's a good way to practice, is you slide up to the note that you want heard for the bend. Practice that. But while this full bend is bent, then you slide up a half step and back down real quickly. And then back to this target note here, the 9th fret of the G string. So skill number 4, sliding. Sliding into chord shapes, sliding into single notes. It's so important to be accurate. Muting comes into play here because you're targeting some single notes there. Really using the major scale. If I'm in a certain key, I'll target key of E. Playing the E major scale on one string or whatever the key you're using, but that helps you get to a chord shape, let's say. But those little slides help you get from a section of fretboard. I just look at the little groups of notes. Sliding to those notes just help you get from one place to another, but have those strings under control with the muting that I talked about earlier. Just being able to get right to a note. I'm targeting an A note there. Sounds different if you just go, but if you slide into it, so skill number 5, the fun stuff. Using effects to inspire your worship guitar playing. Using basic chord shapes and muting and all these things that we talked about earlier, for me, all come together with just a little bit of the ambience of reverb and a little bit of delay. Sometimes a few other effects, but this is fun stuff here. Just that delay. I'm using it more in a rhythmic way, the delay right here. Choking that out a little bit, but just within a key, you can play those chord shapes. I'll get that off there for a second so you can hear a little bit better. Starting out with a phrase with a D to E, and then I'm looking at this A. But it comes alive when you put this delay on there. It comes alive. So that is very inspiring for me as an option. But you also, if you just turn that delay down a little bit and put some reverb on it, then it has a whole different flavor. You hear the delay, but it washes into the reverb and just creates a whole kind of an ambience around the notes you're playing, kind of thickens them up for sure. That is very inspiring for me than playing it, you know, dry or mostly dry with maybe just a less reverb and no delay. The notes kind of die away a little quicker. I mean, I could put more gain on it, but I don't want that. I want the effect to kind of carry the note and create some ambience around the note. And I'm going to do a updated pedal board rundown soon, because this stuff really inspires me to be a better worship guitar player. And it's just fun. This type of sound I use all the time. And get some more delay on there. You can hear how that delay is prominent, but it widens because of that reverb. Just is awesome to play simple lead lines and chord shapes with that type of sound. Just using some of those techniques that I was teaching you earlier, connecting these little shapes, and they really start to come alive if you use some rhythmic and ambient type effects. And that sound like a ton of effect in there, but when you're playing with your worship team, it widens and your notes. You can, and I like to play simple like that because there's a lot of singing and worshiping going on. You don't want to be playing like Eddie Van Halen during those moments. I just believe the simple phrase, a simple set of notes getting from chord to chord is so effective. Let me know what inspires you to be a better worship guitarist. I'd really love to hear part of your story. Thanks for hanging out with me, and remember, God is good.